Right now, I'm going to welcome, I believe they're over here, I'm going to have Bill Giebler and Erica come up, and we're going to start, like I said, with that data. That's what we look for in this industry. From NBJ, that's what we're known for. And they're on their way any second here. And there's a lot going on. We're seeing the numbers are changing all the time, and Erica knows them as well as anybody. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Thank you,
quick
everyone.
Battery change. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great to be here. It's so great to be in the big room with all this all of you, every one of you. It's exciting to see you. Let's dive right in. We're going to go into, as Rick said, we're going to talk about NBJ's numbers for the industry. I always like to say that NBJ exists as a data entity. Rick talked a bit about the journal. We're a journalistic organization, but we're also a data organization. And the data that NBJ has provided for over a quarter of a century is the what, the where, and the why of dietary supplement of the dietary supplement industry. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through a big market overview. The what? What is the what? The what is the ingredients, the big ingredient categories in the individual ingredients, and delivery formats, unless you want to call that the how. The where is sales channels. Where are consumers buying this stuff? And why are they buying it? Those are the conditions. Are they buying it for brain health or joint health, for immune health or sexual health? So that's what we're going to go through here today. And so we'll start with that big market overview. And over to you, Erica.
Yeah, going to kick things off here with total industry numbers. So for those of you who are a little unfamiliar with how our charts work, so those green bars are going to be our historic sales, and then the gray bars are our forecasted or our predicted sales, and then that yellow line is going to be growth. So left axis is sales, and then the right axis is growth. So just want to bring everyone around to that. So overall, supplement industry growth in 2024 grew about 5.2% to reach $69 billion. What a significant amount. Yes, with a B. And so we'll get into a little bit of what's fueling this, but we want to go ahead and start with some consumer survey to kind of like shape where we're at right now. And I like showing this slide because it's really speaking to the overall trend that they talked about yesterday morning of how consumers are really focusing on their preventative health more than they have before, right? So this is pretty much just showing the increase in that preventative health, but as consumers are really looking at the longevity and healthy aging and really prioritizing their health span, so that quality of life over quantity. I mean, if you can get quantity and quality, that's probably really what you'd like, but. So the next slide just kind of hones in that data point a little bit of really showing that consumers are finding balance in their healthcare solutions. So what do we mean by balance? We can see that 39% of general consumers say they use a combination of conventional and natural medicine when they first seek out health solutions. And as we can see that Gen Z and Gen X are really driving this movement. But what I also want to speak to is within this overall, transformation of health is what we're seeing with wearables. So wearables, right? Yes. Isn't necessarily a new story, right? Apple Watches, Fitbits, they've been around for a really long time. But what is interesting, so we see that 52% of consumers say they're using a wearable, whether it's occasionally or regularly. But what's different now is this consumer empowerment over their own data that they're finding with these wearables. So when we asked, what are consumers really tracking, right, when it comes to these wearables? So, of course, what we see, walking steps per day, as I'm sure many of you, I looked at mine last night, I got 20,000 steps yesterday. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Expo steps don't count.
Yeah, right, that doesn't count. Oh, really?
No.
All right. But the next one I check is my sleep score. So as we can see, sleep health is up there at the top as well as heart health. And then also I want to take a point here of showing that stress management, almost a third of general consumers are using it to kind of guide and gauge their stress. And so what we're seeing here of what's fueling this movement, so right, if you think about the first generation of consumer wearables, it was steps, it was calorie tracking. But what we're seeing is that Gen Z is really over-indexing on all of the biohacking practices. So the sleep health, the stress management, the brain health, and really kind of using it as their daily mood, if you will. So how does this impact us, right? So purchases influenced by wearable data, we basically just asked, does the data from your wearable, influence any of your purchase making? And we see that 50% of which said that their dietary supplement purchases are affected by this. And this is general consumers. These are not already supplement users. So I thought that that was pretty compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Erica.
Yeah.
So that took us into some consumer research. We do a lot of that. And now let's go back into the NBJ model where we're doing that what, where, and how. Let's talk a little bit about the what is selling. Vitamins is still the biggest piece of the pie, over a quarter of the, it's, the vitamin market. I mean, a lot of people still call it the vitamin aisle. So vitamins are the biggest piece of the pie, specialty nutrients right behind that, herbs and botanicals. If you look on the right hand of that slide, you see it from a growth standpoint. Again, it was 5.2% growth for 2024, so anything above that number is really driving the growth for the industry. Sports nutrition is growing at 8.4%, and it's the fourth largest category. High growth and big wedge is very significant. Specialty is growing at 6.3%, and meal supplements are growing at 5.7%. So let's look into those a little bit more. Sports nutrition is functional sports protein beverages and sports supplements like creatine, BCAAs. It's growing fast and it's big, like I already said, and it's we're anticipating adding $3.86 billion to that market between 2024 and 2028. So that's big growth. Moving on to specialty. Specialty is kind of the catch-all for what's not a vitamin, a mineral, an herb. So we've got collagen, probiotics, omega-3s, melatonin, a lot of things going on that feed the specialty category. And good growth there too, and that's an even bigger absolute dollars, $4.71 billion increase between 2024 and 2028. I think what this points to is a lot more interest in branded ingredients, a lot more interest in good science behind ingredients. You can have a specialty nutrient and not do good science, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's a movement in this direction. So seeing a lot more of these specialty nutrients. And then that third biggest grower was meal replacement. And if anything, we're understating the future here, those gray bars, because depending on the interplay with the Ozempic phenomenon, this is just such a big opportunity. Meal replacement products, giving people the nutrients they need during rapid weight loss. So it's a strong category, 5.7% growth in meal replacement. Oh, I guess I am continuing. It's awkward pause. Delivery format, the how of the industry. Delivery formats is such an interesting thing. It's a pills marketplace. It's all about pills, right? But no, it's not. It's non-pills now have about 65% of the market, and that happened in 2019, where pills were no longer the majority of the marketplace. What is the majority? Footnote: if you combine all the pills, the soft gels, the capsules, the tablets, you do get 35% of the marketplace, so it's still the biggest piece. But when we separate those out, none of them rise above gummies or powders. And liquids is strong in there too, at that number 4, at 12% of the market, and we're seeing a lot of growth in those. And this points to, I think, just more interest in food format type supplementation. So people are interested in that, especially when you look at it from a generational standpoint. Let's look at those yellow bars. Those are tablets, and it's a stair step down from the boomers. Let's say down, going right to left. Boomers loved their tablets. Gen X is okay, millennials, and it's just, still, Gen Z's 41% of them like, or 42% of them like the tablets. But then you look at something else like the liquid, and you've got the stair step in the opposite direction. You've got much more interest among Gen Z and way less interest among baby boomers. So that likely points to where the market's going from a delivery format standpoint.
I also think it's interesting, typically what we saw was Gen Z was like really high in gummies, right, the last couple years, but we're actually starting to see it stabilize between all generations. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
maybe
it is.
One to watch.
Yeah, gummies are really here now as just a format for dietary supplements.
Interesting. But all right, we're going to go ahead and get to some sales channels. So a lot going on within this evolving sales channels market, right? I mean, you think about the pandemic 5 years ago and how we've shifted in the last 5 years. And 2022, of course, everything in 2020 had very significant growth. We have some corrections. But in 2022 was the year that mass market was the fastest growing channel when consumers were really seeking out those economical options. And then we saw e-commerce kind of return back into that top growing market into 2023, and we saw that again in 2024. So what I want to say here with this is natural and specialty continues to lose market share. This is not doom and gloom for natural and specialty. That is not the message we're trying to push. There's actually a decent amount of healthy growth within that, but we track natural and specialty as natural being, the natural retailers as well as independents, but specialty, which is the GNCs, your vitamin shops, which is bringing that growth down a little bit. But Spins, and Scott is going to get into probably the natural a little bit more after us. But like I want to just point out here, e-commerce, fastest growing channel, mass market, practitioner, and then natural and specialty will be one to watch. So just kind of going into a little bit deeper of e-commerce, as you can see, it doesn't look that fantastic in the chart on the right, just kind of showing how total industry is doing and how e-commerce is growing. But there is quite a significant gap. It's just, of course, when you visualize it, it looks a little off, but still doing quite well there. And most of that market is Amazon. So that's really where a lot of that growth is coming from. Mass market, like I said, kind of took that top space in 2022 and is kind of settling down a bit to that 5.2%. And in mass market, will note, these are your in-store retailers like Walmart, Target, as well as your warehouse and club sales. And with that, conditions, this is my favorite part. I think it's probably both of our favorite parts.
Yeah, probably.
Really,
it's kind of where the trends are happening. And so this is the why.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and kick off with some conditions. So I wanna start by just showing where the dollars are, where the dollars are going within these different conditions. So MBJ tracks 22 different conditions. So on the left there is sales within the total market. So as you can see, fitness and energy is the top one. So this is mostly because meal replacements and protein powders have such high sales. And then after that is kind of general health, but then followed by that is weight management, cold, flu, and immunity, gut health, heart health. But then on the right there are our estimates for the fastest growing conditions in 2024. So those would be mood and mental health, menopause, brain health, healthy aging, fitness and energy, and sexual and reproductive health. So we'll get into a little bit of that now.
Kind of in reverse order, working from sort of smaller markets to larger, but the healthy aging is an important one. There's a lot of talk about health span. It was mentioned before on stage. And longevity is such a term. Healthy aging is an interesting category because it's not really, there's not a lot to healthy aging that's not adjacent conditions. When you ask people what they're talking about, well, here, let me talk about the numbers and I'll show you another slide. Big spike in 2020 and from a growth standpoint, and then stabilized, but still strong growth around 8% through the forecast period, looking to add nearly $1 billion. I'm sorry, no, that's 865, that's coming up on $1 billion for the market in 2024. What is healthy aging though? It's immunity, it's digestive health, it's sleep health, it's hair, skin, and nails, and it's muscle health. So it's interesting to see, it's hard to just extract something that is just longevity. Longevity, when you ask consumers what they're concerned about, this is what they're concerned about, and these are all other conditions we track, but we ask these questions through the lens of when you think about healthy aging, what are you thinking about? And here it is from a generational standpoint. Gen Z is definitely interested in longevity, and they're looking at immunity, muscle health, and weight management. When you get to millennials, you add hair, skin, and nails, and gut health, and then Gen X, you get mood and mental health in there too as one of the drivers for healthy aging. Now let's talk about sexual and hormonal and reproductive health. We just released a report. We did a longevity report second half of last year. We did a sexual and reproductive health report just last month, and we got some good fresh data on that. But first of all, it's a big category, and more people are talking about it. And when I say more people are talking about it, I mean more consumers are talking about it. And when I say more consumers are talking about it, I really mean young consumers. It's a big deal for younger consumers, and they're open to talking about it. So we did a survey, again, for this report, and asked consumers, 59% of all consumers said, yeah, I'm experiencing sexual or reproductive health concerns. And then we asked those people, well, first of all, the generational piece on the right, 49%, I'm sorry, the Gen Z, we see yes somewhat and yes a lot. Those are the green and the blue bars. So that's a significant amount of Gen Zers. Of course, more with the millennials. Gen X is pulling back a little, maybe just not talking about it as much. And baby boomers, 83% of baby boomers have no concerns about their sexual health. So good.
None whatsoever.
Good for you, baby boomers. And maybe it's just because you're not having sex.
Exactly.
Yes. But it could be even in an anonymous survey, people are less open to talking about it. So it's just interesting to see. But I think really the Gen Z and millennial piece is what's interesting here. Looking at a couple products. These are not endorsements. We just look at products that represent the marketplace. And it's kind of moving from like that nitro wood on the left, products aimed at males with a very singular focus, and then moving toward the right there with a little more sophistication and more of a female target in sexual health. And there's so much opportunity there in female sexual health. And then an interesting company to watch, Hello Cake was on stage. My colleague Rob and Lawrence had a wonderful panel the other day. Hello Cake's a very interesting company. They started in toys and lubes, and then they moved into supplements, and now they do pharma. And so it's a very diversified model, and I think we're going to see more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it's encouraging, when we break out that market, right, we see that, majority of it is male-focused products, right, but we're starting to see the shift into women's, and really where most of the growth is within women's sexual health, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that category evolves. But weird transition, but let's get into gut health. So as talking about gut health, we also just released a gut health report last week, so this is also fresh data for you all this morning. And I really like this condition because I kind of relate it to healthy aging, where it's like kind of gut and everything axis. Healthy aging is, like you said, immunity, bone, muscle, and gut is gut and brain axis, gut skin axis, and then there's the mood piece, there's weight management. So it's really, really interesting here, and I think there's a lot of innovation in this space, as well as the increased consumer awareness of all these different systems working together. So 5.8% growth in 2024, going to be onwards and upwards to about 7 to 8% into 2027, 2028. So, okay, I was going to ask a poll before I did that.
Oh, wait, no, don't look.
No, it's too late. They
All
already
right,
saw it. They already saw it. So anyways, we're having an internal debate. Bill and I have many internal debates, so we just want to bring it to you all. And we thought it was interesting that, just go ahead, good.
Just go ahead and show it.
It's fine. It's fine. So anyway, so what we saw, we surveyed about 7,000 consumers and asked, are you optimizing your gut health? And if you are you doing it for overall health, or are you doing it for gastrointestinal related concerns, right? So think IBS, cramps, bloating, et cetera. So more consumers were doing it for overall health optimization rather than gut health. Does that surprise?
We call them the optimizers
Yes.
and the belly achers.
Yes. Does that surprise anyone? Just raise your hand if that's surprising to you.
Okay, well, thank you.
You have about 20
I'll buy you a
people
coffee
that-
later. Erica likes to put this debate out there because I lost.
Yes.
I thought more people were working on their gut health because of their digestive issues.
Yeah. But I think that speaks to the overall trend in this category, because you've been in the industry much longer than me, and I think that's what this category was built on. Mm-hmm. And now we're starting to see this trend more into the awareness of how the gut can affect your overall health. So just an interesting data point there. And then we asked, what are your top motivators for your gut health optimization? So these are the optimizers, as we called them. And so, of course, overall gut health, immunity, digestive health comes to the top. But what's interesting that I want to point out is the weight management and skin health piece. I think those are really two interesting categories that we're going to see a lot of interest and innovation for in the next couple years. And in the next slide here, what we can see is we put some, again, not sponsored products. These are just products that we feel are really showing, the innovation and the trend within this space. So really you see that Skin Squad, the pre-probiotic on the left there really is like a big Gen Z millennial brand there. And then all the way on the right, you see that really targeted product for leaky gut syndrome. So, and we can't have a supplement session without talking about GLP-1s. So we're gonna go ahead and end on this, I believe. So weight management, right? It's a big topic of conversation. Definitely a category poised for high growth now and into the market there. So what we see here is that it's fueled by those meal supplements, the probiotics, the fibers, the symbiotics as well. And so what we're seeing is about 6 to 7% growth into the future there. And another slide we like showing is just kind of, when we did this, we also did this report late in 2024 of supplements in the Ozempic age. And Rick did a really great job of kind of categorizing consumers into these different buckets of, you know, the before or the instead of. So those who maybe want a more natural solution or, you know, just don't want to be on a GLP-1 but do want to lose some weight. And so what's interesting here is, you know, having those supplements that can kind of help those who are in that bucket, and then also the products that are geared more towards those who need those nutritional needs while they're on the medication. But as you can see, there's some ingredients to note there, a lot of growth within combination herbs and probiotics. And these are just some of the reports that we mentioned here this morning. So just some nice, lovely pictures to talk about, but there's a lot going on.
There
It's
is a lot
exciting.
going on, yeah, and there's a lot going on this stage, so I think let's move off of it. Yeah, those are the reports. Go ahead and scan that code. Yeah,
We'll be around
I'll
if
be
you guys
back in
want to
about an
ask
hour with a
questions
panel.
too. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Erica.
Thanks.
Fantastic. So I'm here to give the spin state of the industry for the supplement space. Real quick, I always like to do that in these rooms. How many people have traveled with their supplements today? Here? All right. So we're in the right room. It's not just people wanting to take a seat off the show floor. It's really interesting what's going on. This is me. I'm going to go over the market overview, some of the category performance, some of the functional ingredients. That's the number one thing I'm always asked. What are the trending functional ingredients? Go over a few key categories, mood support, active nutrition, and then end in some of the things that I'm looking out for. Real quick, I have a lot of data to get through, a lot of insights. Are you guys all familiar with spins? Yeah? All right, so we don't have to go through this. The one thing that I do want to note, how many finished brands out there? Sorry, I'm making you raise your hands all the time. Brands that work with us grow 22% faster than brands that don't. There's a soft pitch. We have a very big booth. You guys should stop by. The data that we're sharing today, so we get data from exclusive partners in the natural channel, as well as specialty retailers. We are the only ones who have access to, we have exclusive relationships with both GNC and Vitamin Shoppe, very relevant for you guys. But for today, I'm going to give you a large overview. So it's going to be conventional, plus natural channel, plus Amazon. If we had an hour, we'd go into them individually, but I think it's beneficial to kind of do the market as a whole. And so let's get to it. Supplements are doing well in every channel. It's very good. What's really interesting is that prices are stabilizing, so there's been a little more volatility over the past few years. But as you can see, especially even in the natural channel, which is growing 4% in dollars, higher in units, prices are even declining. I will send out these slides as we go forward. So taking a look at what categories, when I looked at this mid-year, I thought that this might be the first year in a long time that active nutrition was not the top growth category. It was when we looked at the end of the year. So performance nutrition continues to be the key driver. You see both in performance nutrition as well as protein, which is related to it, and also vitamins and minerals doing well. A lot of that buoyed by really strong magnesium sales. When you look at some of the key themes, hydration, has anyone walked the floor yet and not seen a hydration product? No? I think every booth has one. So doing well, calm, minerals, and then on the other side, you look at what's kind of declining. It's interesting because you have energy supplements are declining. Those are specific ones, whereas things like, we'll get into pre-workouts, that's a different story, but energy drinks, so you see some of that transferring. Weight management, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but you see that category is declining. Obviously, you know that the interest in weight management as a whole is there. We're going to talk about what that means as well. Those are subcategories. Here is the health focuses, hydration. Again, this is what's buoying a lot of the sales there. Mood support, immune health. And this is actually the slide that I wanted to do this on. So you see sleep as a health focus declining, but mood support increasing. So that's where a lot of it's going. People are making that connection where kind of if I de-stress, it'll help me sleep. So there's this more holistic overall wellness view of it. Same thing, cold and flu declining, immune health doing really well. So you see some of these are just shifting, even these kind of health focuses that are declining. The interest isn't there, it's just kind of shifting as we're finding products being positioned slightly different. Keeping on going. So here it is, so key functional ingredients, everyone always asks me for. And whenever anyone asks me what the key functional ingredient of the year is going to be, they always expect it to be a new and novel ingredient, and it is always an established ingredient that found a new demographic or new health focus. And so some of the ones that we've seen in the recent years, ashwagandha, been around forever. Creatine is doing extraordinarily well, we'll get into that. Magnesium, a great example is beetroot as well. So an established ingredient for a long time in the active nutrition space as a vasodilator, has really been repositioned as a cardiovascular support, blood pressure support product, doing really well. A few of the others I'm keeping an eye on, that mushrooms other is mostly lion's mane as focus, and nootropics are becoming big. Colostrum is doing incredibly well. ZMAs it's a small area. I think it's going to do pretty well in the future, so I'm keeping my eye out for that as well. One of the things to always look at is what's doing well in the natural channel that has not crossed over to conventional yet. And so these are products that have at least 70% of their brick and mortar sales in the natural channel. And so these are ones that have the potential to be that next explosive growth if they get mass market penetration. So colostrum, algae, glutathione, oregano, these are ingredients that you should be watching for. If they start to penetrate that mass market, they could have really explosive growth. Delivery method, Bill and Erica did a good job of it. I just wanted to show you the difference in channel. So a lot of times products are made for channels specifically, and what does well in one channel will not necessarily do well in another. So for example, brick and mortar does really well with ready to drinks and powders. And Amazon does really well with a few of the others. Just so you guys know, because everyone asked me, gummy is 7th on Amazon, but growing at 21%. Anyone make gummies out there? Yeah. Mood support. Some of the things that we've been watching out for in the past couple of years, and we presented on it, is this idea that people are cutting back on alcohol, but they're looking for something to replace it that still gives them that special feeling. And so what ingredients are doing well? We're tracking that. This is in supplements, but this also has an opportunity to spill over into beverages. So there's a lot of mood support beverages out there. The problem is a lot of that acute feeling. But you're seeing ashwagandha, THC is one to really keep an eye out for. Theanine's doing really well as well. And then on the flip side, the same people who are going to pull back on alcohol are likely to start to pull back on caffeine next. So some of the ingredients, paraxanthine's an interesting one that I've been watching for years, doing well. I actually, on the show floor, I saw nicotine pouches here for the first time, which is very interesting. As that continues, that's something interesting to watch. The Sleepy Girl mocktail, this was something popular. So we saw mood, and I just highlight this to show you the continued blurring between supplements and food and beverage products. If there is a line anymore, it's very, very gray. If you look at all the functional beverages out there, it'll probably be 50-50 if you turn around if there's a supplement facts panel or a nutrition facts panel. But people are making the connection to what can be utilized from the supplements into food and beverage. So the ingredients that really make it, they start out in supplements and they kind of transition to functional beverages. And then the ones that really make it, you'll see them in granola and pancakes and everything else like that. When we go to active nutrition next, you see a lot of this is buoyed. So this was, again, for the 4th year in a row, this was the fastest growing supplement category. It was really buoyed by hydration and creatine. This was the first year in a long time that pre-workouts actually were declining. A lot of that was a shift to energy drinks. When we talk about protein, A big shift that you've seen over the past few years is the shift back to whey protein. So similar to how, when we saw that plant-based meat boom, we saw plant-based protein booming with it. As that sort of leveled off, we saw plant protein level off as well, people going back to whey protein. So that's the highest market share and the highest growth. I do want to note that for plant protein, pea protein is still growing at almost 10%. Protein is at almost a 50% household penetration and has a 75% repurchase rate. So it's a really sticky category. And performance nutrition in general is actually the three top least seasonal categories in supplements are all performance nutrition. So pre-workouts, protein, and supplements, performance other. So if any retailers are out there, these are categories that you really don't have to pay much attention to. There's some social media trends going on. It's 30 grams of protein per meal, 30 grams of fiber a day, and 3 probiotic foods. So this kind of shows that protein has this continued health halo. Fiber's really approaching that. It really helps as fiber's been kind of rebranded as prebiotics, and really finding a lot of growth there. And it's especially impressive as there's competition in every single aisle. So not just aisles of the grocery store, but also aisles on the show floor. You'll see protein added to everything, and fiber as well. When we talk about creatine, creatine's been an exciting ingredient. There has never been an ingredient that was really more niche, hyper-focused on young men, particularly young men in the gym. And it's really expanded into having all these different growth runways. So you see format changes. Creatine gummies are doing well. The creatine ready-to-drinks are entering the market. And so as we look for I mentioned before, when you look for the ingredient that's going to take off, it's an established ingredient that takes new forms, check, new demographics, women, different age brackets are entering, new health focuses, it's being used for cognitive support now. And now even, the one that I hadn't thought about before, is now they want the people who are using it to actually take more creatine for those cognitive benefits. So there's a new study that came out, or at least that I learned about, that when you take a large dose of creatine, it helps you have more energy when you're sleep deprived, AKA at Expo. When you talk about sports and rehydration drinks, this is an interesting thing because this saw a big boom over the past few years with a couple big brands. We're seeing that flattening out, although the supplements and the stick packs in particular are seeing really massive growth. One thing I want to highlight is a lot of these active brands that have become active beverage brands have really, made the hydration and energy kind of their thing and moving between ready to drink and ready to mix. So like Celsius, for example, came out with ready to mix hydration. So this is kind of an example. We've seen it go the other way as well. What's next? We see different formats. We see drops. We see gummies. I always say, if you're thinking about hydrating, removing the water is an interesting option, but people are interested in it. Hydration has such a health halo that now it's the hero health focus. So it's not something plus hydration. It's now hydration plus immunity plus energy. Even hydration plus protein is out there, where protein's always the halo, the health halo. And nature's hydration, so don't forget about some of these juices as well. So energy is the opposite. So we see the supplements, the ready-to-mix versions of it, slightly declining, but a lot of that growth is coming back in energy drinks. I want to take this time out to say that, to really mention that we are tracking all these artificial ingredients, the single ingredients as well as artificial ingredients in general. There's always been this kind of double standard for some of these sports nutrition products where because they were kind of perceived as good for you, a lot of them had a ton of those artificial sweeteners, colors, everything in there. But you see here there's big opportunity and growth when you have them naturally positioned, and a lot of that means kind of that clean label. Excuse me. And so finally, I want to go through some of the things that I'm looking out for. There's going to be a whole panel on this, but it'd be hard to do a state of industry without talking about the likely impact of GLP-1 drugs. It's going to impact every single aisle in the store, supplements in particular. So I mentioned that weight loss supplements were down. They had been declining at mid to high single digits for a few years. This was low double digits now. But what's going to take its place is, I think there's two sections. So there's companion products. So things like protein to make sure as you're losing this weight, you're not losing your muscle mass. I predict that we're going to see the best year for multivitamins in a long time as people look to fill those nutrient gaps, as well as things like green supplements and gut health products to kind of mitigate some of those reported side effects. And then there's also the competitor products. So I did this slide a few years ago. I thought I would never have to do it again. We talked about berberine, how it started to pop as being dubbed nature's Ozempic on a lot of popular podcasts. But now I have to keep re-updating it because it keeps hitting new peaks every quad. And so it's very interesting to see that there is still a demand for these types of products that are being purported to mimic versus companion. You see there's other ones out there as well. So it's kind of these competitor versus companion products that there's a market for both. Other things I'm looking out for, Erica and Bill mentioned how this wearables boom. So this is how we're talking about personalization coming to market. So how many people are wearing a wearable right now? Whoop, Oura Ring, yep. So you're getting your personal data and you're able to make real-time changes and see what they happen. And the number one thing people change is the supplements they buy. And the number two thing that they do is diet modification. Factor that in, a lot of people now are also kind of gamifying it, finding out their biological age. Anyone do that? A lot of people. Anyone brave enough to say that they're actually older than their chronological age? No, never met anyone yet. I'll keep trying though. And so where the opportunity is now there's this feedback loop that's going to happen where there's going to be recommendations for what products to take. So how can your brand be in that recommendation is something that you really need to start to think about. Which takes me to the last point, this kind of evolution of search. We started out, people would Google the products, then they were checking the Amazon reviews, and now they're both looking on social media as well as some of these AI chatbots and like the GPT style searches. Just for example, we asked, and anyone could do this, we asked the different GPT chatbots what was the best creatine. And we got very different answers across the board from the different ones. Only Transparent Labs and Optimum Nutrition came in up in all three. So as you're thinking about your marketing and where you're spending your marketing dollars, this is where kind of the future is for how people are finding it. You need to start thinking about how to optimize getting your product to be the recommended one. And so thank you guys very much. Really enjoyed presenting to you guys. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tom Arts.